Yo, so if you guys saw last week's tech tip, and then if you caught Friday's video, they might not seem like they have any similarities, but in my mind, they do. It got me thinking of what constitutes being a car guy. This is one of those confrontational things that people argue over, and my mind has actually shifted back and forth drastically over the years. So that's what we're going to talk about on this week's Tuesday Morning Tech Tip from Pugliese Speed Shop. So you might be wondering, Chaz, I saw the videos. One was talking about people pissing off on Marketplace, and the next was you finish the OBS. How could that possibly, run together? It doesn't make any sense, right? Well, number one, you're not living in here. It makes perfect sense, all right? I was talking about the guy that was looking at the Dodge. Well, looking at the ad on the Dodge. And he was, we can't all do those kind of things. And he's right. I got it. We all have different skill sets, right? So, does that mean he's not a car guy? I don't know. He's looking at ads. He's wanting to put a truck together. He's thinking about getting it done. He's not talking about doing all the work, but he still got the love for it, right? And then here, I did a lot of stuff on this truck. There were some things that Nick did before, and I think I'm capable. I mean, I know I'm capable of doing a lot of it. I didn't want to do a lot of it. When he said, hey, I already welded new cab corners and rockers, I was like, sweet. Can I do it? Yes. I can do it because I have a very good grinder, all right? I'm not the best welder, never will be, mainly because you guys see how I work on things. It's always kind of let's get it done, and I don't have the time to practice. No, let me think. I don't take the time to practice. Not that I don't have the time. So I'm not telling you it's not my fault. I'm just telling you there are things that I would rather not do, and people are better at it than I am. And if I have them do it, whether I buy the project with those parts already done, or if I pay somebody else to do it, in the case of the 65, does that make me not a car guy? I don't know. Son of a... Better sit down and talk about this. So, if you guys asked 1990s Chaz if having somebody else do some of your stuff makes you a car guy still, absolutely. Because 1990s Chaz was living at home. Well, I guess you always live at home. Wherever you live is home. Living at my mom and dad's home in junior high, high school, and working in a gravel driveway, getting yelled at for using my father's tools and leaving them scattered around. So I knew how to be dangerous, and that was about it, right? So I remember the time where I was like, I would work on whatever was broken to keep the car and truck, whatever I was driving at the time, on the road because I didn't have any money, and there really wasn't a whole lot of options, right? I had to get somewhere. I was always scared of brakes. I was like, I'm not going to touch brakes. And my philosophy behind that was, well, if the car doesn't go, that sucks. If the car doesn't stop, that sucks for everybody around me, and I don't want to, so I didn't want to put other people in danger. I didn't know what I was doing. But then I learned, and I was like, well, this is easy, right? And then I wasn't worried about doing brakes anymore. Now, early 2000s, I started getting into the custom scene, custom with a K. That's when I bought my 53. I had the 53 Caddy, and me and my buddies were getting into some things. Well, so we all had different skill sets, right? Like I could polish a turd. Promise you. All right? Then I can make anything run. Somehow or another, that thing will get running. Was never a strong welder, didn't know a lot about performance stuff, but my buddy Brandon, he was. My buddy Mike was. Joe was into, none of the Joes that you know, by the way. My buddy Joe from 100 years ago he was the guy, he was the brains. He figured all this out. He had a 64 Vet, was the most beautiful motor I've ever seen in my life in this thing. My buddy Chip stayed, they all kind of lived together, man. And Chip was another guy. He was the motivation. He'd just get after it. He'd figure things out and make things work, and he's still doing that today. And Justin was always like, let's plan this out. Let's get it. So we all hung out. We all messed with old cars. We all had our strengths and our weaknesses, just like everybody, right? But I got in my own head. And then I was thinking to myself, if you don't do everything, like if you take your stuff to a shop, you suck, dude. You ain't no car guy, man. What are you doing, right? I was young. What was that? 23, 24 years old. Thought I knew it all, right? I'm a little older than that now. And I've slowly gone back towards the 90s, Chaz, a little bit, to where, now, not that I'd be afraid to do something, but I'll figure it out, right? Like, we've talked about this, know your limits, right? The 65. If I want to spend the rest of my life putting that truck together, I can do it. It's been 9 years, and we haven't made a whole lot of progress, but pick your battles. My grandmother used to tell me that, right? So it's like, this truck was definitely attainable for me to get everything done exactly how I want it, right? Do I trust my metalworking skills enough to fabricate all the stuff that needs done on that truck? I don't. Clearly I don't, and that's why I called Joe, and then, you know what, we're on the right track now. He's making more progress on that thing in the last couple months than I did in the last couple years. So it's the right decision. Does it make me not a car guy? No, it makes me willing to pay somebody to do things I can't do. Or I might not have the time to do. I mean, like, and that was the mindset that kind of made me stop thinking that way, the bad way. Well, you decide if it's bad or not. But when I started, I got in a couple online arguments over the years about, and actually in-person arguments about, like Jay Leno, right? People are like, oh, he's the best car guy out there. He don't really work on nothing, and he's got millions. That makes it easy. Like, is he a car guy? Of course, right? He's more of an auto historian, I think, if we're getting technical for things. But he's not somebody I can relate to. Actually, you know what? I don't know the guy. Maybe I could, but his taste in cars and all this crazy stuff that he has, I can't relate to that. Look at me. Who am I, right? So, and even, I don't think if I had all his money, I'd still care about any of those cars. It doesn't do it for me, right? But, there's I'm trying to think how to say this, right? Some of those arguments I got into were dudes that own shops, right? And they're like, nah, man, these guys are car guys, and shut up, dude, because this is how I make my money. If these guys didn't want their cars built, how would this guy, he's like, I wouldn't be able to do what I love. I was like, man, I guess that makes sense, right? All right, okay, now let's try to wrap our heads around that. You can be a car guy, I guess, right? And have other people do, you might not know that much stuff, right? Like and there's a lot of stuff I don't know now, right? So I'm not saying I know everything by any stretch. But when I was younger, like I said, I consider myself a car guy. I had a 5-liter Mustang. I was out doing things, man, right? But I didn't want to do brakes, right? And it's weird now that I know better. And fun fact, that very car was the first time I ever did drum brakes. I did doing all the brakes on the car and all that stuff. And well, again, I didn't have a lot of money and I needed brakes. So I figured it out, right? I think I had a buddy of mine actually help me out. And worked out wonderful. Not even a problem. Actually, yeah, it was Chip. We were on debt in Point Mugu, California. And who was the other dude? Oh my God, Porsche. It was Porsche. That was the last name. Mike Porsche. That doesn't matter. Either way, the three of us went and did those brakes together on that Mustang at the hobby shop on the base, and I was never scared to do brakes again. So, now by that theory, if I cut my 65 apart and start welding it back together, I'll never be afraid to do that again. It's kind of the DD Speed Shop anthem. That's what he does. He gets after it. Now, He's done it a million times. The first couple, he didn't know what the hell he was doing, but he figured it out. Which is why I'm glad that guy was blowing smoke and didn't want to buy the Dodge that's sitting out there. Because me and old Wade were talking about it. And we want to use that truck to practice our welding skills. Old Wade's a decent welder. He bought himself a new welder. I need to get one that's a little better. My wire feed, it's a flux core, I guess. So I got to get something I can put some gas to, because otherwise I'm going to burn holes and stuff and whatnot. But so that's what we want to do with that truck. Because if I do screw it up, I'm not that upset about it. The parts are cheap. The truck was cheap. I like it, don't love it. I'm sure there's Mopar guys, they're like, oh, what's wrong with you? But I think that's actually pretty good. I think that he was a little upset, old Wade, when he saw that I put it for sale. But because we had talked about this for a while. So it's still on Marketplace. And if somebody gives me the I don't want to sell it price for it, sorry, old Wade, it might go. But it's not like we don't have other stuff we can weld on. But I think that's a good project for that. You know, take a cheap vehicle with some, it's a cheap thing to put together. It's still pretty cool. And learn, right? That's how I figured out how to do brakes. I got put in a position to get it done, and I learned. So I don't think we'll ever answer the question, does that make you a car guy? Are you a car guy for this or that? I think there's different kinds of car guys. There's dudes that have nice cars and they want to look really nice and run good and all that, but they don't want to work on it. My brother Anthony, he's always got nice vehicles, a nice truck, whatever. His wife always a nice car. They got a beautiful, I want to say 71 Vet, 354 speed, beautiful car. If something goes wrong with it, he takes it to the shop. And that's just, you know, that's not his thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Now, if you're the guy that you have somebody else build your stuff and you're there trying to brag on it like you built it yourself, you wrote a check, you settled now, right? So I think that's where the confusion comes in. Kind of like when you go to the car show and there's all the guys in the new Vets wearing the New Balances and whatnot, like, oh, look at mine, I did this. You didn't, you brought it somewhere, somebody tuned it, and you got good credit, so you bought a nice car. Just call it what it is. I think that's where I have a problem. When people start making stuff up to make themselves sound like they did something they didn't do, right? Like if I sat here and I told you I built this truck from the ground up, I finished what Nick started, and that's it. Nick did the suspension on it and some brakes, and he welded some things on, and then he kind of lost interest. Not kind of. He lost interest. He found something else he wanted to do. I was lucky enough he hit me up. I came in, and I finished it up. I mean, that's just, when you're out there in your car, your truck, whatever you got, be honest. And don't talk about, well, I've got a stage 2 this and a stage 1 that, and some of the Harley guys out there, not on. When you try and get super technical about stuff, nobody cares. We're not listening. I know I'm not. It's like, oh, I got some work done to it. That's how hot rodders talk. Maybe there's a difference between a car guy and a hot rodder. Hot rodders are like, yeah, I did some work to it. You know, we'll see what it'll do. And then you got the other guys, which is usually like the import dudes, what stage this and throttle body, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Nobody cares. It's your car. Do it how you want. If you can't do it and you have someone else do it, that's fine. Just don't bullshit about it. At the end of the day, we're all trying to have fun with our cars, save some of them, and sometimes throw them back out into the wild for somebody else to enjoy. So I guess just quit raining on people's parades. If people want to be a car guy, let them be a car guy. It doesn't take it away from you. Thanks for watching, guys.